Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Natalia Moczulska, and this is the news. According to the government's announcement, the continuation of the reform of the judiciary is in plans, but no longer in this term. The changes will take place in consultation with legal circles because there are many lawyers in Poland who see what pathologies are at work in the judiciary, the Prime Minister says.
The overall reform came out the way it did. This is how Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki summed up attempts to reform the judiciary in a ministry overseen by sovereign Poland politicians. Of course, we will continue to reform the judiciary. I hope in such a way that it is realistically carried out. I think that in this term of office, we will not manage to turn the projects into binding law because there is not enough time. I think that after we win the elections, we will return to the issues of the functioning of the judiciary. According to the Minister of Justice and Attorney General Zbigniew Ziobro, the reform of the judiciary has failed for reasons outside his department. Prime Minister Morawiecki, I fully agree that the reform of the judiciary has not fully worked out as we jointly wanted, only that I will remind you was first blocked by the president's veto and then EU blackmail, which you have used for years to explain your lack of consent for further judicial reform. I accept the appeal to me to undertake changes in the judiciary in good faith. That is why I am sending you once again a package of my judicial reforms ready to be passed for more than 4 years. Of course, neither I nor the Council of Ministers is blocking any laws. It's worth putting up with a bit of digs towards us for what we've achieved over the past 8 years. For almost 2 years, there has been a bill in the Sejm with which the Polish judiciary can be improved. We are talking about the presidential bill on magistrates. If even 40% of cases went to the magistrates, it would be a huge relief. Currently, we have such a long waiting time even for the first hearing. It's turning into a farce. But such a solution is not accepted by the politicians of sovereign Poland. It takes 1, maybe 2 committee hearings for the bill to reach the plenary chamber, and they are directly voting to drag it out, like calling in further experts, adjourning the meetings. In February of this year, President Andrzej Duda referred an amendment to the Supreme Court law to the Constitutional Court. The amendment calls for the transfer of judges' immunity and disciplinary cases to the Supreme Administrative Court. A date for a hearing at the Constitutional Court has been set for May 31st. However, there is concern that the required panel for adjudication will not be assembled that day. If the 11-member composition does not come together, we will need to look for another date. The first reading of a bill authored by Law and Justice deputies, which calls for reducing the required size of the General Assembly and the Constitutional Court from 10 to 9, and the full tribunal from 11 to 9 is scheduled to take place during the upcoming session of the Sejm. We have no doubt that the stalemate in the tribunal must be ended, and this is the most important issue. While the way to end the stalemate can be of various kinds, this is one of the proposals that is on the table, and the Solidarna Polska board will discuss this proposal. The adoption of an amendment to the Supreme Court law is one of the conditions for Poland to receive funds from the National Reconstruction Plan, for which we have been waiting for 25 months.
At the 4th Council of Europe summit in Reykjavik, President Andrzej Duda said it was necessary to maintain solidarity with the struggling Ukraine for as long as necessary. The Council of Europe should support the Western Balkan countries, Ukraine, Georgia and Moldova on the road to the European Union. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky virtually addressed the summit participants.
It's an important step to hold to account those guilty of crimes committed in Ukraine. Crimes have to be accounted for. It's of key importance to compensate the victims and their loved ones, but it's also a precondition for peace and stability in future. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, let me remind the words which I said on many occasions before. Today, it's Ukraine who sheds its blood and gives lives in the name of the values which underpin our identity. We, the free world, must be determined to support them in this fight. Without such support, all our declarations will remain void.
I thank the Council of Europe, each and every of you personally, for the decision of the register of damages caused by Russia's aggression. This brings closer the creation of a full-fledged compensation mechanism that will show the world that aggression is not worth even thinking about. There should also be a special tribunal for the crime of aggression, so that those whose heads this terror was born in are brought to responsibility. And I'm sure that we will provide this result for 100%.
Great Britain has announced that it is working with the Netherlands to form an international coalition to help Ukraine acquire fighter jets. Meanwhile, German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius, after meeting with the UK Defense Minister, said Germany has neither training capabilities nor fighter jets. Ben Wallace, on the other hand, said that the UK has no F-16s and Typhoons will not be sent.
Britain and Germany send the message to Russia that what they are doing is unacceptable and that they cannot win in this war, and that they should seek alternatives to it and indeed leave Ukraine. And I think that is very, very important. That's to Ukraine at this time. Typhoon is, we've been consistent in saying we're not going to deliver Typhoon Tranche 1. Is not a plane that would be suitable, but also we make the clear point that this is not about gifting weapon systems. This is gifting a platform.
Kein Anhänger der Ausschließeritis. Ich kann heute nicht ausschließen.
I can't say for sure today that today's answer will not be different in 3 years. Everything is, of course, a matter of circumstances. But at the moment, we cannot play an active role in such an alliance or coalition because we have neither the training capacity nor the available reserve of aircraft. In the end, the decision will be made at the White House anyway, because the Americans will decide whether the F-16s are even deliverable and whether the Ukrainians can be trained. But these are all decisions that will not be made in Berlin.
Kann ausgebildet werden an diesen Flugzeugen. Das sind alles keine Fragen, die in Berlin entschieden werden.
Politicians vying for votes in Greece's election on Sunday, May 21st, have turned to YouTube and TikTok to win over a younger generation who have long felt that years of crisis have cost them their youth.
A decade after entering university in the hopes of becoming a teacher, Irene Balyaka is juggling jobs to pay bills as Greece faced a deep economic slump, a pandemic, and cost of living crisis ensued, leaving her no closer to that ambition. I would not want to leave. Everyone is here, my family, my companions, my friends. But the last 2 years I have caught myself thinking about it. There are days when I come back from a 12-hour shift, my partner the same, and we calculate what we made during those 12 hours compared to other European countries, and I get depressed. I feel a sense of futility. That is the basic feeling, futility.
Η βασική αίσθηση ότι υπάρχει μετεότητα. Νομίζω ότι η Ελλάδα σε κρατά σε μια στασιμότητα.
I think Greece keeps you in a state of stagnation because of the bad or few opportunities it gives you, which does not give you the motivation to move forward. Just knowing that even if I get my degree, I won't be paid as a graduate, and 90% of the jobs out there is nullifying in itself. For many young Greeks, finding suitable work is tough. Greece's dire demographic problems mean young voters are only a small part of the electorate, at around 18%, but politicians cannot afford to be indifferent. In March, after Greece's deadliest train crash killed 57 people, most of them students, thousands of youth took to the streets in the biggest anti-government protests in years. What kind of society do we live in? It does not offer me anything. It takes and takes. Our parents sacrificed so many things, basic things, so we could study here, so that we could have a better future. And we succeeded. We got into university with dreams, with will, with tenacity, in order to make this society better through our studies. And all of a sudden this comes along and takes all your dreams, everything. You feel rage and you have to fight, because nothing is given to us easily. We have to fight for it every day. Wooing under 30s like Balyaka is proving a challenge for parties across the spectrum ahead of the May 21st vote, with political pledges seen as falling short for a generation that will be vital to Greece's economic outlook as its population ages. A new electoral system means an outright winner is unlikely on Sunday, making every vote count. Opinion polls showed the ruling conservative New Democracy Party ahead of the leftist Syriza overall. Among young voters, left-wing opposition parties tend to be more popular, but many remain undecided. If elected, Syriza says it will abolish university entry requirements, while New Democracy has promised a €150 benefit when someone turns 18. Lamprini Rory, assistant professor of political analysis at Athens University, says that like Baliaka, most of her students work, and that will mark their political identity in the future.
Politicians want to feel close to the youth because the youth symbolizes the future and hope, so they cannot be indifferent. But also, given the fact that during the crisis we have had almost 500,000 of people, the majority of who were young people, leaving the country, exiting in order to find better opportunities and better living conditions abroad, I think they don't have now this luxury of being indifferent towards the young generation.
Inflation and economic growth are the issues foremost on their minds. And while 82% of young Greeks say they intend to vote, only 35% believe elections can improve things, a survey by Itiron think tank found. While the economy is forecast to grow by 2.3% this year and unemployment has eased to 10%, nearly a quarter of those under 24 are jobless, and 14% of those under 30 are severely materially or socially deprived, according to Eurostat, both figures more than double the EU average. Economists say the scarring effects of lost income, skills, and productivity suffered in earlier years will likely last a lifetime and could spell problems for state finances down the line, with an aging and shrinking population worsened by an exodus of nearly 500,000 skilled young Greeks during the crisis.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Please stay tuned for Poland Daily Weather, Poland Daily Business, and some of our other programs. But for me, it's have a wonderful evening.